Alright, we're back for the last round, and we won the die roll again. Be on the play, take a look. This hand looks real bad. Throw it back. Well, this 6-card hand is much better. We'll keep, and even though we have the threat of getting wastelanded, we will have a Noble Hierarch in play, so it's not so bad. The next few turns we can build our board with Inkmoth Nexus and Blighted Agent and even Pendlehaven and threaten lethal in just a few attacks. Now, some people who play this deck are very aggressive with their early starts. They like to lead with like Inkmoth Nexus or even Glistener Elf sometimes over Noble Hierarch, so that they can start attacking and then play Noble Hierarch on turn 2 to get exalted triggers while attacking. And sometimes it is correct, and it's matchup dependent in a lot of ways, but a lot of times it's just based on your Noble Hierarch and how it kind of influences the rest of your plays for the next few turns. Looks like our opponent here is probably playing Storm. He played Probe and Underground Sea. Could be some form of Delver, but we drew another Vines of Vastwood, so hopefully we don't get destroyed by a Cabal Therapy. That would be pretty gross. We are going to attack for 1 just in case it ends up mattering with Ad Nauseam, but even if our opponent ends up being like a Grixis Delver deck or something like that, we still have 2 Vines to protect our Inkmoth Nexus. And we really only want 1 creature to survive anyway, so it's not even a huge deal if our Blighted Agent dies. There is the possibility that we just die this turn since he did cast Brainstorm. But the fact that he shuffled with the Ponder is good news for us. But the Brainstorm is usually the more powerful card in the Storm deck, and if that is what he is playing, then we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. If I had a counterspell for the Brainstorm, I almost always counter that. A lot of times it's difficult for them to empty their hand for Infernal Tutor or Burning Wish, depending. But Cabal Therapy here hitting our Vines is pretty gross. Unfortunately, we drew another one, and that sucks. But if we were able to play one out of our hand, that would have been great. But alright, well, if we end up drawing... we get to hit him for 3 here. If we end up drawing a Pump Spell, the Berserk could just kill him. If we draw another Noble Hierarch, it could also kill him, which is awesome. But we are probably going to die this turn if I had to guess, and if not, we have to get a little lucky on our draw step. Either hit a dig spell, but looks like we are just going to die since he started with Lion's Eye Diamond. That's usually a sign that you are probably dead. Double Lion's Eye, double Lotus Petal. So now you can just cast Infernal Tutor off 2 Underground Seas, crack 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, go get Ad Nauseam, and draw a ton of cards and more than likely kill us. The good thing though is that he doesn't necessarily kill us. You know, he could break off pretty hard with his Ad Nauseam and still give us a turn to draw something, but he's almost assuredly getting Ad Nauseam. Okay, well, he got Cabal Ritual, so now he's going to go Pass in Flames into Cabal and crack both Lotus Petals. Maybe Infernal Tutor for another Infernal Tutor. Looks like he had just enough spells to kill us, but he still could have cast, 2 therapies and out of his graveyard and something else, so we were dead to a million things. He had a lot of spells that turn. Good draw from him. Turn 3 kill with a discard backup, but hopefully we'll get him at least 1 game with these Ley Lines of Sanctity. Not many people play those. Well, for starters, Vines of the Vastwood can come out. They very rarely have any sort of targeted removal spells. We want all of our dig, all of our counter spells. Basically just want to bring in Ley Line of Sanctity. Maybe Sylvan Library over something. Jace doesn't seem particularly fantastic. I guess we can cut both of those and bring in the Spell Pierce. Seems okay. We'll try that. A lot of people have this trap where they bring in Grafdigger's Cage since their opponent is using Passive Flames, but it's actually really bad for us to do that since our opponent's life total is not really under too much pressure. We do give them... I mean, they always have the ability to cast Ad Nauseam instead of Passive Flames, so Grafdigger's Cage is a quasi-dead card. Alright, well, we're going to keep this hand. It's a little awkward. I think we're going to lead with a Noble and just start getting the beat down on. Instead of holding up for Spell Pierce on turn 1. He could Therapy us and name Force of Will, but he might name something like Brainstorm instead. And, you know, if we end up burning our Spell Pierce on turn 1, then it's possible we just don't draw another blue card and our Force of Will becomes dead. Or he has the Taxian Probe to have perfect information for his Cobalt Therapy anyway. So we could have mulliganed this hand. It wasn't particularly strong, but we do have a little bit of pressure. Damage is relevant in a lot of these games because it does turn off Ad Nauseam if that is the card he has to go for. Assuming like he doesn't have a lot of actual spells to cast over the first few turns. So hopefully that's the case here and he just doesn't ever Cobalt Therapy us. Well, Brainstorm was really good. Could have saved it, but I want to try to draw an Infector. Ley Line of Sanctity is not terrible. We might actually just kill him with it. So, put a Noble and a land back. We're going to cast another Noble Hierarch, so we can hard cast Ley Line of Sanctity, and we're going to hold up Spell Pierce and Force of Will. And there is a small likelihood he brought in a way to bounce it, but I would say there's probably about a 75% chance that just casting Ley Line of Sanctity kills him. So we are going to try to counter as many of his discard spells as possible, land that, and if we land that and have Force back up, he's going to have basically Echoing Truth, or I guess Chain of Vapor maybe, plus the flashback Passive Flames to actually deal with it. So, and the two cards we shuffled away were an excess land and an excess Noble Hierarch, two things that we don't really need, so that's fine. Dark Ritual. Well, I'm not sure if I should... I guess I should just counter that to try to prevent his chain of being able to like Ritual again and play a discard spell. So we're just going to Spell Pierce that since it's likely to resolve the Spell Pierce and Time Walk him. And we just want to cast this Ley Line of Sanctity before he starts hitting us with a bunch of discard spells. I could try to go off again, but the odds of us not having a blue card are pretty small, I think. Alright, well, he's almost certainly going to name Force of Will since we have that. And the odds of him casting another Cobalt Therapy this turn are pretty low. He has to have Lotus Petal plus another one, like a Duress or something. And if he does do that, then he's down to 3 cards, and we have a Preordain, so it's not all that bad. Alright, well, since we have Preordain over Ponder... sorry, Preordain, and we're going to be empty-handed. I'm just going to go ahead and cast Ley Line of Sanctity. I thought I could attack for 2, but I forgot I had to tap these guys for white, so we'll just cast that and Preordain. And since it could be Echoing Truth, we're just going to go... I guess bottom top's not so bad. We can start attacking for 3, but I think bottom is better. Now the Ink Moth, we get to start dealing in poison damage, and that's a little bit more. It means our nobles are a little more powerful. Now if he randomly does have Echoing Truth in his deck to, like, I guess fight the fast combo kills, that could be bad for us, but the second Ley Line doesn't really help with that anyway. And we may be able to kill him with Inkmoth Nexus before he's able to combo off. He may also have Empty the Warrens or something, but I assume that... I mean, I think I just have to assume that he doesn't have a bounce spell in his deck, but could be wrong. Alright, Empty the Warrens. He's going to make 8 guys. It's actually pretty good. I did not expect that. It's a little upsetting. Not a lot we can do about it though. Ley line looks super awkward here. Well, we can, I guess, block with a Glistener Elf, take 7 down to 10, attack him for 3, hope we draw an Invigorate or a draw spell into Invigorate to kill him. I think that's our only roll out here. Yeah, because we can take a swing for 7. Alright, well, we're going to take 7 again next turn and hopefully kill him. I'm going to actually go ahead and cast the Invigorate here, just in case he randomly has Echoing Truth plus like a discard spell. I don't see a reason not to. There's, I mean, if he has something like Xanted Swarm, there's not a ton we can do about it. If he has Echoing Truth plus Grape Shot, then that's also fine. There's still, again, not a lot we can do about it. That was basically the perfect draw. It didn't really matter if we drew it this turn or next turn. I suppose if he had Flusterstorm or something, it was good that we drew it this turn. That way he couldn't go like Brainstorm, Brainstorm, counter it, or something. Now he's digging super hard, I guess, to find something. Empty of the Warrens is a medium tilt, I'm not going to lie. There's not a ton of people who go with that against Infect. And I guess it's going to bite him, but he does get to beat Ley Line of Sanctity, which is a little gross. One thing to note is that if he did have Echoing Truth, he does have a Cabal Therapy in the graveyard, so it was important that we play the Invigorate now so we don't get it discarded. There's a small chance that that happens, but it's not entirely relevant. We drew the Invigorate. That was the one card we needed to draw. I guess we could have also drawn Become Immense, would have been pretty similar. Alright, well, in case he has randomly like Gut Shot or something, we're just going to activate Inkmoth, play the Penalhaven, and attack for 3. Did he draw? No. Alright, well. Well, I'm really glad we drew this Penalhaven. Man, we are just running hotter than the sun. Yep, well, we drew Invigorate into Penalhaven, which was pretty insane. I'm sure our opponent's not very happy, but to be fair, he did have his... I'm not going to say one of Empty the Warrens. He might have boarded in a bunch of them, but that card was obviously very good against him. He showed us Vines of the Vastwood, so maybe bringing in Vines is okay to help protect our Blighted Agents and such. Not sure. Jace might be good if he hits us with a bunch of discard. But if he's emptying the Warrens, then Jace is obviously much worse, and we just have to be very combo heavy. I'm going to leave it as is. It could be wrong. But, I guess just hope to kill him the same way we did last time. So, alright, well, this hand's pretty good. We have Force, blue card, and another Infector and an Invigorate, so we have a lot of draws to just naturally kill him early. Alright, well, we can turn one Noble Hierarch here. I think that's better overall than playing Inkmoth Nexus. But basically we want to... Well, actually, it's probably worse. We probably want to go turn 1 Inkmoth, turn 2 Invigorate attack. But I don't know. It was probably okay since he led with Volcanic and didn't play a draw spell. Now there's a chance here he goes Dark Ritual on turn 2, and if we let that resolve, we might just die. Might have to cast Force of Will on it. Because if he goes Cabal Therapy, Force of Will, he still has 2 black floating with the Volcanic, and he can play a bunch more rituals, but it's possible we have to let that resolve and just hope he doesn't have Cabal Therapy and he's trying to bait us. There's a lot of weird lines you can take from Storm against decks with Force of Will, and leading a turn off early on with Dark Ritual is a great one to just put the fear in your opponent, and sometimes you just have to let it happen. Alright, Ink Moth. I'm going to keep holding this guy. I'm going to attack for 1, I guess. Make Ad Nauseam a little less appetizing. It's not a huge deal though. But if we had led with Ink Moth, we would have been able to put him at 5 poison and not been as vulnerable to Cabal Therapy. We also, I mean, I don't know, there's the potential now that if we draw Ink Moth or something like that, we, or not Ink Moth, Pendlehaven, or I guess another Noble Hierarch, we threaten to kill him in 2 swings since we put this other Noble Hierarch into play. Now I really want to counter this Brainstorm. He had a really awkward start with Volcanic into Island, and we could just die. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I'm thinking his hand is real bad. Volcanic into Island doesn't seem like a solid start, and he could just have a hand full of like rituals and not a lot else. And forcing that Brainstorm is a little greedy, but if he just cast Cabal Therapy, then we could also just die. Now he can also just empty the ones for like 10 here and kill us in 2 swings. I'm hoping that's not the case, but the odds of us, he had all these rituals, so the odds of us winning if he resolved Brainstorm are also not very high. And again, we could have probably mulliganed to Leyline of Sanctity, but our opponent has also shown us Empty the Warrens, which is super awkward and not something we can play around too easily. But alright, well, we can take like 1 major hit from these goblins down to 7, Invigorate, so we have a couple of turns to draw into something. Force Will is not going to be it. So if we hit him for 6 here, we can still kill him with Berserk, so there's no reason to hold on to this Invigorate. Oh wait, wrong one. The only reason to hold on to Invigorate is to play around Abrupt Decay, so if we draw Berserk, we can kill him even with that. But I'd much rather play around a Cabal Therapy or something like that. Now we can draw Berserk, Become Immense, Vines of the Vastwood. Oh no, we set it out Vines. So we can draw not a lot. We're drawing pretty thin. We can hit any pump spell. I know the Noble Hierarch doesn't do it. A Pendlehaven doesn't do it. And he made too many goblins for us to really deal with. But we could have waited on the Force of Will, but I don't think it was correct. His start was really weird. We are going to fetch here since we have another fetch in hand if we draw a Brainstorm into like a Ponder or another Brainstorm. Alright, well, we drew land and we are 2 points short, unfortunately. And our opponent has far too many goblins in play, so empty the Warrens, a little awkward here for us. There's not a lot we can do about it. Our opponent had our number. He had a really good sideboard plan with that. It made our Leylines of Sanctity look pretty bad. We obviously don't have Echoing Truth or anything like that to bring in, so we were probably not going to win the game regardless of what line we took. If he resolved Brainstorm, he was probably going to cast Dark Ritual, and that would have put us in a position where we probably had to force it, but he also could have just main phased a Cabal Therapy if he had it. So that's something we could have potentially played around. I liked our line. It ended up not working out, and we ended up losing the match because of it. But I assume that most Storm opponents will not have Empty the Warrens, or at least the versions that don't have Burning Wish. Versions with Burning Wish will usually have access to Empty the Warrens out of the sideboard, but it's not something you usually have to take into consideration in Game 1. Those versions also have answers to Leyline of Sanctity, which is a little tougher to beat. But for the most part, Leyline of Sanctity is going to beat most of these decks, so it's something to keep in mind. These are some things we were trying out with the Infect deck, and it obviously didn't